Welcome to the G5 Hive and our next installment of our Worker Bee series, where we deep dive into the G5 college football landscape with the folks that know the teams the best. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening in podcast form, please rate and review. Today, we'll be heading into the Mid-American Conference for some action and taking a look at the Zips of Akron, who finished 4-8 in 2024. They recently wrapped up their 2025 spring practice with an open practice on April 25th. We have a special guest joining us today. He does play-by-play for the Akron area. He is an intern for the Akron Rubber Ducks. He is the sports director for Akron WZIP 88.1 FM. He is Liam Riggenbach. Liam can be found at Riggs5034 on X. Welcome to the show, Liam.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Like I said, when we were talking before, it's always a great day when you get to talk some Akron Zips football. So I'm excited.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you into sports media, and how long you've been covering Akron football?
Honestly, just something that I've been in love with pretty much my whole life, especially growing up, listening to a lot of Tom Hamilton on the radio, doing play-by-play for the Guardians. It kind of got, and then a lot of ESPN Cleveland as well growing up, just got me into like, wow, you can do this as a job. And then when the illusion of being a pro athlete fades from when you grow up, you're like, well, I want to be around sports. How else can I do that? And this is where I found myself.
Awesome. Well, moving over to the Akron Zips football team, for those not familiar with the Akron Zips offensive style, how would you describe it?
They definitely like to spread the ball out. It's very, very, I would say it's pretty fast-paced. I'm obviously not the fastest in the country, but very fast-paced, very quick hit focused. Sort of a West Coast style offense. They like to move the ball quick, which can be both good and bad at times.
Well, let's get to the position where it all starts on offense, and that is the quarterback. Last offseason, we wondered who would replace DJ Irons, and the answer was Ben Finley. Finley returns to the Zips in 2025, as does Braden Regal, while Taj Bullock is off to Colorado State. How has talk around campus been different this offseason, knowing who your quarterback will be?
Oh, it's been very good. Last year's uncertainty, especially with the limited amount that we got to see Taj in the past and then the limited amount of play that Ben Finley had coming in. Obviously, we were excited to have a guy transfer in from a couple big Power 5 schools, but obviously he was pretty unproven. So there was a lot of just uncertainty around campus, and getting to see how accurate he was, especially with the football, was really promising for us. So that was kind of a contradiction from what we had with DJ. DJ was definitely a less accurate thrower of the ball. But a better athlete. So I think the quarterback position, as far as the Akron Zips goes, kind of had to revamp in this past season, and that's why you saw the dual action of Taj Bullock and Ben Finley kind of still have both those aspects, but really the precision guy that the Zips have been missing in years past.
We were talking before we started recording, and you were saying how limited access is, but given the limited access, how did Finley look for you?
Good, still accurate as ever. Honestly, what I've been looking at most is he's a guy who got banged up a lot last year. So just kind of looking at how's he moving. Does he look healthy? Does he look like he's going to be able to make it a whole season? And I think he's looking really good. The ball's zipping out of his hands. He looks like he's improved his accuracy, improved his mobility in the pocket. I'm really excited for what he's going to bring to the team this year.
You touched on it a little bit, but for those not familiar with Finley's game, how would you describe it?
It's definitely like precision passing based. He's not going to go out and beat you with his legs. He's not a Lamar Jackson type quarterback, but he definitely can escape and go get yards when he needs. But he does a lot of dancing around in the pocket. I would say kind of more how like a Shadur Sanders did it last year in college, where like there's not a lot of designed runs, but he's very good at keeping plays alive. And that has backfired a couple times in games, but he tends to be able to do a good job of keeping his eyes downfield and being able to let plays develop. Turn broken plays into ones that can be positive for the Zips.
Well, freshman Sebastian Broughton was an early enrollee, and the staff brought in Michael Johnson Jr. from Syracuse, but he was recent and he wasn't there in the spring. Between those two and Braden, who do you think has the leg up right now for the number 2 role?
I think it's Regal at this point, just with the limited amount we've seen with Sebastian Broughton, and then with Michael Johnson Jr. not really being here all that much. I do think they didn't bring him in for nothing. I think that he'll definitely compete around for that backup role, especially when fall camp comes around. But as of right now, I would say it's Braden Ragow's job to lose, especially with him getting limited time and some blowouts at the end of games last year.
Well, moving over to the running game, this room sees two of their three running backs who logged a carry for the Zips hit the portal. Their leading rusher from a year ago, Jordan Simmons, is off to Ole Miss, while their number two back, Charles Kellum, is off to Eastern Illinois. That means 195 rushing attempts, 1,025 yards, and 3 touchdowns are up for grabs here in 2025. This room does return former Minnesota transfer Marquise Williams. They've also added 2 FCS transfers in Jordan Gant from Tennessee State and Chris Gee from Colgate. It feels like there's a lot of unknowns in this room. Can you tell us what we should expect here in 2025?
100%. If you can expect anything, I think it's going to be a lot like last year. We're going to see a lot of running back by committee. It started off a little more unbalanced, but as season unfolded, you got to see certain guys' strengths and weaknesses. Where Simmons was a better in between the tackles runner, Charles Kellum was a better pass catching back and maybe better at getting outside. So you saw a lot of running back by committee, and I think we'll see that again this year between Jordan Grant, Chris G, and Cam Macomb. Cam Macon. I think we'll just see everybody getting a fair amount of carries. Whoever wins the job out of camp will probably start the year dominant with a lion's share of the carries, but it seems to always even out up here.
Can you kind of describe maybe the play styles of those guys that'll be in that committee and maybe how they might be utilized differently? Like, is there a guy that's maybe between the tackles or a goal line guy or another guy, like you said, that's adept at pass catching?
A lot of these guys are newer, so I haven't seen a ton, but I like Jordan Grant a lot in between the tackles, and then I think I see Chris G potentially being that guy that fills that Charles Kellum role, being more of the pass catching back. But again, I think there's just a lot for the team to figure out still going into this coming season.
All right, it's early in May here, but if you had to guess who got that first carry against Wyoming, who would you pick?
I'm going with Jordan Gant. That's just my gut feeling. But like I said, a lot can change between now and late August.
All right. A strength for this team heading into the 2024 was the wide receiving room. 2025, however, is a different story. We see 4 of the Zips' top 5 receivers hit the portal, leaving only 52 targets to return this season. This room is highlighted by the return of former Pitt Panther wide receiver Israel Polk and his 24 receptions for 201 yards. Alex Adams had 855 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2022, but he did not log a snap in 2024. Do you know anything about his injury and maybe how his recovery is coming?
I know it was definitely a nagging injury. Like there would always be rumors every couple of weeks that Alex Adams was coming back, and whether or not other things played a factor into his return. So honestly, we would love to see Alex Adams play for this team. He's a very, very talented receiver, but just based on last year, I don't know if he's a guy that we can count on just to be available, which really stinks to see because he's such a talented wide receiver. So, I mean, you hope the guys like Miles Walker and Brandon Hills can maybe step in and fill that role that Alex Adams is going to potentially leave as a void, but we're just keeping our fingers crossed with him at this point.
How did the group look in the spring, and was there anyone kind of standing out for you?
Good. I think they look fast, especially Israel Polk. I think Coach Moorhead's done a good job of just bringing in as much speed as he can, and I think it showed last year. And I think we're going to have a similar group this year where you just have guys that can really just go win their one-on-one matchups and get open downfield. And with a guy like Ben Finley, a quarterback who, like I said, can extend plays and keep plays alive and has the arm to get it down there, you have a recipe for a lot of explosive plays for the Zips in 2025.
So you have, the returners and Polk and Walker and others, and then they bring in 4 transfers, Tim Greer Jr. from Fresno State, Brandon Hills Jr. from Washington State, Cameron Monteiro from Pittsburgh, who I don't think was on campus for the spring. But, with all those all those targets that are up for grabs here in 2025, how do you see him kind of being divided up? And if you had to guess today, like who maybe the 3 receivers they roll out there week 1, who do you think that might be?
I know just, again, ear to the ground, the team seems to be really, really high on Tim Greer. So I like him to be a guy who gets a very big share of the targets. But if Alex Adams is healthy, it's going to be Alex Adams. I know I've talked about that being a big if, but his talent is just amazing for what the Akron Zips have had in the past. And I think that him being here, he already has a little bit of chemistry with Ben Finley, and some of the other guys just aren't going to have um, that type of connection already, just being transfers and not having as much time together. So if Alex Adams is healthy, I'm going to give it to him. But Alex Adams notwithstanding, I like Tim Weir Jr. to have a really good year this year.
All right. If you were to describe how the tight ends are utilized in this offense to someone that's never caught a Zips game, how would you describe it?
Um, they kind of tend to be your traditional safety blanket over the middle guys, especially because the Zips don't have a ton of big bodied wide receivers to go. Julio Jones isn't walking through the door in Akron. There's no big 6'5", 220-pound receivers that are walking through. So you really need those guys to go get the tough, gritty yards over the middle. And I think Jake Newell really did a fantastic job of this last year. He was actually leading the team in receptions for a couple of weeks last year, especially towards the beginning of the year. He kind of tapered off as the season went on, but like I talked about earlier with Alex Adams, I think he's got another good relationship with Ben Finley and guys that have a good connection. There's a play in my head against Bowling Green where the communication wasn't great, so that's coming to mind right now. But for the most part, those two are on the same page, and the tight end position at Akron tends to be more of the short yardage, 3rd and 3, and this team still likes to pass, especially when you haven't traditionally had an offensive line that you can lean on consistently in short yardage situations. You got to throw to pick it up, and those balls tend to find the tight ends.
Yeah, it seemed like last year Newell and Finley kind of had a good connection, like you talked about, and you think maybe with an Adrian Norton, being gone, do you think maybe he looks more towards Newell's way here in 2025?
I think so, especially with all those new faces in the receiving core. I mean, to Taylor's oldest time with the tight end being the safety blanket. I think Jake Newell does a great job of getting open and finding soft spots and zones and using his body to kind of even box guys out if he's got to. He's just good. He's a good sure-handed tight end who's good at contested balls. So I think that connection is always going to be there, and it's going to be a place where Ben Finley can kind of hang his hat.
Similar heading in to the 2024 season for the offensive line, this team loses yet again 3 starting offensive linemen. This O-line is unique in that 10 games played in 7 or more games, and 11 guys took snaps for the Zips in 2024. Only 4 of those 10 guys who played in 7 or more games a year ago return. This line will be anchored by the return of Keelan Davis and Delvin Morris. What are your expectations for the offensive line heading into 2025?
Really, I just want them to be more consistent. Last year there was games where they would play really well, and you could see the backs be able to finally have some openings and really be able to show what they've got. But there was also games where Ben Finley and Taj Bullock would be under constant duress, and the backs were getting hit in the backfield. Like there was just no consistency that you could count on from the offensive line. So, bringing in 2 redshirt transfer juniors and a redshirt transfer senior, you hope that they can bring some experience to the rest of this group. And Kellen Davis and Delvin Morris, you hope they can kind of get them up to speed and this group can mesh. It's tough, especially with offensive line, because you want those guys playing as a unit. So if I was running a program, I wouldn't lean on transfers, but it's kind of what you got to do in this day and age. So you hope those guys can mesh together as a unit and just find consistent play. Because last year when this team had good offensive line play, they were a very good team that was capable of winning more than 4 games, but you just couldn't get the consistent play from the 5 up front.
So those 5 up front, obviously, I would assume Morris is going to return at center, Davis at right guard, and maybe Dane Shore at left tackle, AJ George at left guard. But it seems right tackle might be the biggest question mark. Any idea who you think might plug into that spot?
Allen Jones Jr. Seems to be the front runner right now, but if it shapes up anything like last year did, we could see a revolving door of right tackles just to try to find something that can stick.
All right. If you have to pick an offensive player to have a breakout type season here in 2025, who would that be?
I'm going to go Delvin Morris just to be – because like I said, that group needs to mesh together, and I think that hinges a lot on the center. And I think that if he can have a breakout year and just really assert himself as the quarterback of that offensive line and really just be able to get them to play together, I think a lot of it hinges on his ability to just get them to play as a unit. And if he has a great year, I think the rest of the offensive line goes with him and the Zips on and so on and so on.
All right. Well, let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. For those not familiar with Akron's defensive scheme, how would you describe it?
I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. Not a ton of blitzing. Gonna kind of just usually try to play sound and have you make mistakes, force you into third and long, and try to force punts. Not a ton of takeaways, I would say, on this defense. Not forcing a lot of fumbles, not coming away with a lot of interceptions, which was a frustration. But still pretty defensively sound and well coached unit.
All right. Well, let's start up front with the guys along that defensive line. By their way of graduation or the portal, this group sees 6 of their top 7 linemen in terms of snap depart, one of which was first team all conference CJ Nunnally, who led the team in sacks with 6 and generated the most pressures with 24. Looking at this 2025 team, the D line is highlighted by the return of Bruno Dahl, who had a sack and 4 pressures just a season ago. How did that unit look and come together this spring?
I think they're looking good. I'm looking for a real breakout from Bruno Dahl, a guy who we saw kind of sparingly last year, a rotational end to give guys like Bennett Adler and CJ not only a break, but a very big, talented guy nonetheless, and can bring a lot of pressure off the edge. I think he's going to show a lot of promise here as a redshirt sophomore and really break out and potentially be a leader for that defensive front.
So, as I mentioned, the group loosened 6 guys to portal graduation, and those 6 accounted for 14 of the team's 24 stacks in 2024. You mentioned Dahl. Is there anyone else that you kind of see maybe stepping up to kind of help replace that pass rush production here in 2025?
Yeah, like I said, Bruno Dahl, and I mean, you hope that the transfer Cyrus Durham can come in and make a difference. But it's going to be really tough. I mean, losing a guy like CJ not only to Purdue and a guy like Bennett Adler, those were 2 defensive leaders. Like Bennett Adler was one of your captains. You're just losing a lot of leadership up front. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with the defensive unit this year. I think last year, especially talking to the guys before the season, there was a lot of comfortability and all these guys having played together last year and had been in the system for multiple years now. But this year with all the turnover, it's going to be less of a thing that the Zips can hang their hat on.
Moving over to the linebackers, this group also takes a hit, losing leading tackler Brian McGoy to Oklahoma State and Antavius Fish to Sam Houston. They do return Gage Summers, Melvin Spriggs, Rich Benegay, and Shamon Cooper. They also bring in Division II first team All-American and 2-time Great Midwest Defensive Player of the Year and Cam Hollabaugh from Wash. How did the linebackers look in the spring?
I think they're looking good. They're flying around. I mean, losing Antavius Fish and Brian McCoy, like Brian McCoy, another captain of the team. Him and Bennett Adler were real leaders, and then Antavius Fish, another just dude who could fly around. So you're losing a lot of solid play there. Those guys played a ton of snaps last year for the Zips. So you're just looking for production. I think just in the spring, you're seeing a lot of guys seeing time again, just to see kind of what sticks. But I'm really excited for Cam Hollabaugh. I mean, like you said, all those accolades from a lower level of college football, but a level that I still think can translate up here to the group of 5 level. So I'm really looking at him to kind of bring a little toughness and grit to this younger, potentially room if we don't see Gage Summers and Shamad Cooper really assert themselves as leaders.
If you had to guess today, who kind of replaces McCoy and Fish in that starting lineup, who would you guess?
I'd go Shamad Cooper at the weak side linebacker, and then your strong side, I think I'm going to give it to Cam Hollabaugh. It's going to be a battle definitely between him and Gage Summers, so we'll see who kind of comes out of that in the fall. But hopefully, I mean, with those 3 seniors, you have a potential rotation there, so guys are constantly fresh and you have leadership. But if not, there's, tons of youth behind them, so we'll see. But I like Hollabaugh and Cooper to start the year.
This defensive backfield will look a little bit different here in 2025. 5 of its top 7 guys in the room have either graduated or hit the portal, but it's highlighted by the return of corners Elijah Reed and Amon Greenwood, who gained a lot of experience in 2024. The staff also added 5 transfers, including 2 from the Power 4. What should we expect in this defensive backfield room in 2025?
Yeah, just kind of what I said earlier, just a lot of inconsistency potentially, but you have guys like Elijah Reed coming back who really showed high level defensive back play. So you're hoping they kind of bring these new guys along with them. It's kind of the same story all over this team because there's so many new faces coming in. But the Zips secondary last year really showed an ability to come up big when the team needed it, especially getting some last-second wins towards the end of the year, and some really good play, aside from one busted coverage at the very beginning of the game against rival Kent State, who was historically bad last year, but hey, a win's a win. But they were definitely a strong point of this team, and it felt like just the defense as a whole was something that you could actually surprisingly rely on, which hasn't been something that I could always say about Akron football. So you're really hoping that Amon Greenwood kind of grew up quick last year and is able to slot into that kind of nickel cornerback role, and him and Elijah Reed can just continue to lock it down this year.
Like you talked about the cornerback position, I think you probably feel really good about that one with Reed and Greenwood. But how do you think the safety rotation might shake out in 2025?
I don't know. That was another position that kind of started off like with guys, multiple guys playing in, and then we had starters sort of settle in. But I think bringing Mekhi Flowers is a guy that I think we're really excited about here on campus. And then Justin Anderson's another guy at strong safety that I think the team is excited about, and I think that the team entrusts to fill the void that was left by graduation in the portal.
All right, if you had to pick a defensive player to have a breakout type season in 2025, who would that be?
I'm going to say Elijah Reed just because I don't think he got the recognition he deserved last year, and I think that he gets to be that true number one guy this year. He gets to be prove that he can be the man for a team like these Akron Zips. So I think he'll have a breakout in terms of like more of a national spotlight if the Zips can be a solid team.
All right, well, let's move over to the special teams units. How are those special teams units looking, and are there any concerns?
I mean, you're losing Avery Book, who is, in my opinion, the best punter in the MAC. I believe actually just got a camp invite somewhere in the NFL. I saw the other day. I forget which team. But honestly, it was last year was an amazing year for Zips special teams. The year before, the Zips had lost 2 games off missing kicks. One being at Indiana, which would have been a huge, huge win for the program. But you shank an extra point and end up losing the game in overtime. So to be able to have a guy who could consistently make kicks last year was awesome. Having Owen Wiley coming back, you're excited for that. But losing the punter Avery Book is honestly, I'm more broke up about that than I should be about losing a punter. I mean, the guy was just constantly automatically down in teams inside the 5. We even had one of the punts get fumbled inside the 5 and recovered for a touchdown against Bowling Green. The guy was a weapon on special teams. So I'm sad to see him leave, but hopefully the punters they're bringing in can fill in here. But so disappointed to lose our punter, but having a consistent place kicker was just a breath of fresh air.
Now that spring practice is over, which position group or groups do you think is the most concerning heading into 2025?
I mean, it's still the offensive line. I mean, offensive line is something that I love to watch, just offensive line play in general a lot, but I think it's something that really can't be evaluated well until real live bullets are flying. I think you got to see how those guys react to guys from other teams really in the trenches getting after it. And so much of this team is going to hinge on offensive line play as it did last year. So I think that unit for this team, we're really not going to see how good they are until week 1. So I'm excited and nervous for that aspect of this team.
In today's age of NIL, revenue sharing, and the transfer portal, how has it changed Akron's recruiting philosophy?
You've seen this team just rely heavily on the transfer portal. I mean, as we talked about it, so many transfers brought in by this team to fill voids that were created by the transfer portal. I mean, this team has been like a purgatory almost for you just come here, either you come back down from a Power 5 or you see guys like a Cam Hollabaugh that are coming up from a lower level that are almost like using Akron as a tryout to go try to play higher level Division I football. So it was good to see a guy like Ben Finley stay and continue his career here, but it just seems like you can't get used to seeing the same faces anymore.
Given all those additions, do you feel Akron, the coaching staff there, has done a good job navigating the portal?
Yes, I think so. I think Coach Moorhead, especially and his staff, have done a great job of addressing needs that get created, or I mean, there's needs that are coming with graduation and things like that, or with guys that you are pretty sure are going to leave, like CJ Nunnally, we were pretty sure wasn't coming back. They've done a good job of just trying to plug and play, trying to find guys who fill those holes because there's not much they can do about it.
Yeah, we talked about
those bodies. Sorry,
you're fine. We talked about some concerns, but what do you think the main strength of this 2025 team will be?
I think it's going to be really quarterback play. I think, especially without the kind of two quarterback system that was a strength, but towards the beginning of the season seemed to be like, oh, who's going to be the starter between Ben Finley and Taj Bullock? You don't have that discussion anymore. This is Ben Finley's team. This is his show to run. This is his orchestra to conduct, and that's consistency that we haven't seen since DJ Irons. And even with DJ Irons, it wasn't there all the time. So having the team know that they're getting an experienced, veteran, skilled leader in Ben Finley is really, really exciting going into the season.
What does success look for the Zips here in 2025?
Just improvement. That's what we want to see is improvement. Last year, I guaranteed over our airwaves several times that the Zips were going to win 4 games. So I almost cried during that Kent State win because all we wanted was 4 wins. Just some improvement, make the team watchable, and Coach Moorhead's done that. So this year we're looking to go bowling. I think 6 wins is within this team's sight. I think it's doable, especially when you're not playing Ohio State and Nebraska, or Ohio State and Rutgers and South Carolina. Sorry, we played Nebraska this year. But you're not playing 3 Power 5 teams to start the year, which I know that last year's staff last year was not a fan of. So you have more winnable games. Opening the season with Wyoming, that's a winnable game. So I think that we're just looking for improvement. We're not expecting 12-0 here, but I mean, I think 6 wins is very doable for this team, and going to a bowl for the first time since the 2014 Boca Raton Bowl, I believe, would be pretty big.
Well, Liam, we've kind of covered a lot of ground today, but is there anything else you want to share or think we should know about this 2025 Akron Zips football team?
Just that if you're bored on a Saturday and you're not an Akron fan, they're a team to watch. No matter what team ends up going out there player-wise, they always play entertaining games. It feels like about 9 out of their 12 games last year were virtually down to the wire. They're a team that tends to end up playing the level of their competition, whether that's good or bad. So they play a lot of close games. They play a lot of fun games. They're like the epitome of college football, it feels like. When people say, oh, they're just kids, anything can happen. I think the Zips kind of end up epitomizing that, and they play a lot of very, very fun-to-watch football games.
Well, Liam, thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend with us and share your knowledge about Akron Zips football. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're listening in podcast form, please rate and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you all for your support. And until the next time, we are the G5 Hive. Hey, 1, 2, 3, we cheer the Akron. We cheer